We're sorry, but there's plenty of people in England that haven't seen us unless we do a world telly show and everybody watches at once through a satellite. That's the only way everybody would see us.
It was supposedly the very first satellite hookup around the world. I don't know how many millions of people, but it was supposed to be some phenomenal amount of people. And it was probably the very earliest technology that enabled that kind of satellite link.
John wrote All You Need Is Love specially for the television show. It was a commission that was Brian suddenly whirled in and said, we are to represent Britain in this round-the-world hookup, and you've got to write a song.
Because the mood of the time, it seemed to be a great idea to do that song, because while everybody else was showing them people knitting in Canada and Irish clog dancers in Venezuela, we thought, well, we'll just sing All You Need Is Love, because it's a kind of subtle bit of PR for God, basically. And I don't know if the song was written before that, because we were making an album at the time, so there was kind of lots of songs in circulation. Paul may know more about that. Over to you, Paul.
I'm not sure. It was John's song mainly. I don't think it was written specially for it, but it was one of the songs we had, and I don't know, actually George Martin might have a bit better idea than that. It was certainly tailored to it once we had it, but I've got a feeling it was just one of John's songs that was coming there. We went down to Olympic Studios in Barnes and recorded it, and then it became the song. They said, this is the one we should use. I don't actually think it was written for it.
Yeah, they wrote it specifically for that. And we all dressed up again. See, we were getting into, we loved dressing up. So we had another suit, but mine was so bloody heavy. As you know, Simon and Marika from The Fool was the company. And I had all this beading on, as we'll cut to right now. And it just weighed a ton. It was a fabulous time, musically and spiritually.
And we had prepared a track, a basic track for the recording, for the television show, but we were going to do a lot live. And there was an orchestra that was live, and the singing was live, and certain audience and so on. And we knew it was going to be a live television show. And there was also a camera in the control room on us, doing our bits. And just about 30 seconds to go on the air, and there was a phone call, and it was the producer of the show on to me saying, I'm afraid I've lost all contact with the studio. You're going to have to relay instructions to them, because we're going on air any moment now. And I thought, my God, if you're going to make a fool of yourself, you might as well do it properly in front of 200 million people.
The man upstairs pointed his finger, and that's it. We did it, one take.
Believe all you need is love, but I don't believe that just saying it is going to do it, I mean, I still believe in the fact that love is what we all need.
And it was for love. It was for love and bloody peace again, It was a fabulous time. That's what it meant to me. I mean, that's, I even get excited now when I realize that's what it was for. People putting flowers in guns. San Francisco was just exploding. Here was fabulous. California, where we are, LA. It was just exciting times. And all for this loving feeling,
And music, the whole rest of it was just music. There were posters coming in from San Francisco. All these psychedelic posters were great. Yeah, so, I mean, Summer of Love's a little bit too sort of easy, but yeah, some sort of golden summer.
Being autistic, it was like the Bowery. It was like alcoholism. It was like any addiction. So at that point, I stopped taking it. Actually, the dreaded lysergic. I had some in a little bottle, and I put it. It was liquid. I put it on a microscope, and I looked at it. And it looked like rope. It's like old rope. And I thought, well, I'm not going to put that in my brain anymore.
I was influenced by acid and got psychedelic, like the whole generation. But really, I like rock and roll, you know.
Just one of those things that happened, you know, as life went on.
We'd been into drugs, and we were. The next step then is then you've got to try and find a meaning. Then
that's where I really went for the meditation. And there's this thing called a mantra, and the mantra is through the mantra you can follow a technique that helps you to transcend, that is, to go beyond the waking, sleeping, dreaming state. So I got myself to the point where, okay, I need a mantra. You know, where do you go? You know, go to Harrods and get a mantra. But then I met David Wynne, who showed me this picture, and he said, oh, he's coming to do a lecture at the Hilton. It's called Maharishi. So I said, okay, I'll go. I got some tickets, and then I thought, well, I'll get some in case the others want to go.
oh yeah, all right. Who went along, and I thought he made a lot of sense. You know, I think we all did. Because he basically said that with a simple system of meditation, 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the evening, no big sort of crazy thing, you can improve the quality of your life and sort of find some sort of meaning in doing so.
And after the lecture we went, because, you know, that was one of the privileges of the Beatles, you could get in anywhere, so we got backstage, met Maharishi, and, you know, I said to him, got any mantras? Give us a mantra. And he said, well, we're going to Bangor tomorrow, you should come and get initiated.
And that time, Maureen was in hospital having Jason. I was visiting. And I came home, and I put on the answer phone. Even in those days, we had answer phones. And as a message from John, oh, man, we've seen this guy, and we're all going to Wales. You've got to come. The next message was George saying, wow, man, we've seen this guy, Maharishi's great. We're all going to Wales on Saturday. You've got to come.
The Beatles seem to be among your supporters now. How do you feel about that?
I feel a great promise for the younger generation, because if the people take up this transcendental meditation, they are the ideal of energy and intelligence in the younger generation. And that will really bring up the youth on a very good level of understanding and intelligence. I'm very happy about it, that they heard my lecture last evening, and they talked to me for about an hour after the lecture. They seem to be very intelligent and alert.
We'd sort of rung our mate, hey, we're going up there, he's great, this guy, oh, you ought to come and see him, you know, it's like a good book you'd read. You try, hey, you ought to get it, I'll send you a copy. Sort of that kind of thing, you know, you ought to come, or he's going to be there, come with us. How we got up there, was a big crowd at the train station, there was a crowd to meet us, and we all sort of wandered through in our psychedelic gear, and spent like it was like a summer camp. It was like a school, you know, that they've taken over, and you sit around and he tells you how to do it, and you go up to your room and try and do it, and of course you can't. For the first half hour, you know, you're sitting there and you've got a mantra to meditate on, and you're thinking, going, oh, that was good. Bloody hell, that train journey was a bit much, wasn't it? Oh, sorry, mantra. Bloody hell, I wonder what our next record's going to be. Oh, you know, I've been trying... Oh, stop. And you spend all your first few days just trying to stop your mind dealing with your social calendar, you know, whatever's coming up. God, he's a funny bloke, that man. Oh, no. But it was good.
I was really impressed with the Maharishi, and I was impressed because he was laughing all the time. And, you know, so we listened to his lectures, and we started meditating, and we were given our mantras. It was another point of view. It's the first time we were getting into sort of Eastern philosophies now.
You know, you just sort of sit there, and you let your mind go, whatever it's going, doesn't matter what you're thinking about, just let it go. And then you just introduce the mantra or the vibration, just to take over from the thought. You don't will it or use your willpower.
I seem to recall it was a phone call that somebody came to us in this place in Bangor and said...
and that he died. That was kind of stunning, because we were off on this sort of finding the meaning of life, and there he was, dead.
I heard it on the radio, actually, on the car radio, that he died.
The local shopkeeper said, sorry about the news. I said, what news? He said, your friend's died.
Our friend is gone.
Well, I don't know what to say, you know. We've only just heard, and it's hard to think of things to say. But he was just a beautiful fella, you know, and it's terrible.
What are your plans now?
Well, we haven't made any, you know. I mean, we've only just heard, haven't we?
Yes, it's, you know, it's much of a news to us as there is to everybody else.
I spoke to him Wednesday evening, the evening before we first saw Maharishi's lecture, and he was in great spirits.
I understand that this afternoon Maharishi conferred with you all. Could I ask you what advice he offered you?
He told us not to get overwhelmed by grief, and to whatever thoughts we have of Brian, to keep them happy, because any thoughts we have of him will travel to him wherever he is.
We were all gutted, you know. It was a huge shock, of course, because he was like one of the people we'd known longest, you know, and huge confidant of ours, and we just knew him very well. And, you know, when anyone dies like that, it's just the shock of them being wrenched out of the picture. You go, oh, I'm not going to see him anymore.
And it was just, you know, blood drained from the face, you know, saying Brian's dead. And there was very little we knew other than that he'd been found dead. And we just knew, well, that's it, we got to... It was very strange for it to happen at that precise moment. We just got involved with this meditation.
It's your belief system gets suspended just because you don't want to hear it so bad. You don't know what to do with it anyway. If you look at our faces in the film, we're all a bit like, oh, what is it? What does it mean, you know? Our friend is gone, you know? More our friend than anything else. You know, Brian was a friend of ours.
I don't think there was anything sinister. Later, there came out all these, you know, rumours that it was a sort of very sinister circumstances, but I think those are easy to do after the event. I sort of went around a couple of days later and saw Brian had a butler, you know, working for him, and he didn't seem to feel there was anything suspicious, and he seemed to feel that you know, he wasn't in any total black mood. It could have been, I don't know. But my feeling was that it was an accident.
I don't believe that he committed suicide. I believe it was an accident, because in those days everybody was topping themselves accidentally by taking uppers and or amphetamine and alcohol.
And that happens, you know. I feel that happened with Keith Moon, just one too many. I can deal with it. Jimmy, whatever. Jim, Mama, all those people. You know, I don't think any of them set out to die.
How have you a tribute we'd like to pay to Mr. Epstein?
Well, you know, we don't know what to say. We loved him, and he was one of us. So you can't, you know...
We can't pay tribute in words.
I knew that we were in trouble then. I didn't really have any misconceptions about our ability to do anything other than play music. I was scared, you know. I thought, we fucking had it now.
It was a huge void. We didn't know anything about, you know, our personal business and finances, and, you know, he'd just taken care of everything. And I suppose it was chaos after that.
We were kind of managing ourselves, really. It was sad, you know, it was very sad to lose an old mate under those circumstances. But I don't think the major worry was, oh, what are we going to do now? We haven't got a manager. Because, I say, we'd been moving away from that.
What we really decided was we had to keep on trucking, right? Because obviously they'd always discussed whatever they were doing with Brian, right? Now there was nobody. There was Brian's organisation, right? But we hadn't related to that. We'd only ever related to Brian.
We're suddenly like chickens without heads. What are we going to do? What are we going to do?
You know, that's when Neil kind of stepped in and tried to figure out what was happening.
As far as I was concerned, we had to get it together, you know. But the other people out there who were Brian's associates, if you like, you know, accountants, lawyers, all of that sort of stuff. You know, I think it was, you know, suddenly maybe, you know, the lunatics had now got hold of the asylum. You know, what were the Beatles going to do? And so there was a lot of, you know, different sets of advice coming in at them about what they should do. But we decided we needed we needed an office and an organisation of our own, you know, and that's really why we expanded Apple, because Apple already existed. You know, it was I think it was a publishing company on in an office on Baker Street.
Paul made an attempt to carry on as if Brian hadn't died, you know. I think Paul had an impression we should be thankful for what he did, you know, for keeping the Beatles going.
At some point, you know, I know John got a bit annoyed, sort of saying, you know, Paul's sort of trying to be the leader of the group and stuff. It's possible that I was there more than anyone. You know, that I mean, when we did Magical Mystery Tour, for instance, I ended up kind of directing it, even though we said, well, the Beatles had directed it at the end. Just because I was there most of the time, and all the late-night chats with the cameramen about what we're going to do tomorrow would tend to be me rather than the others.
The Magical Mystery Tour is waiting to take you away.
It's Paul's idea. It was basically a charabanc trip, which people used to go on from Liverpool to see the Blackpool lights. And they'd get, you know, loads of crates of beer and an accordion player and all get pissed, and basically, and just go pissed in the English sense, meaning drunk. And you just go to see Blackpool lights. And it was kind of like that. It was a very flimsy kind of thing.
I think it was Paul's idea. I know that he and John sat down, I think in Paul's place in St. John's Wood, and they just like drew a circle, right, and then marked it off like the spokes on the wheel, you know, and it was really, you know, we can have a song here, you know, we can have this here, we can have this dream sequence there, we can have that there, and they sort of mapped it out, but it was pretty rough.
And then he came and showed me what his idea was, and this is how it went. It went around like this, the story, and he had it all, you know, I think, production, and he says, well, here's the segment, you write a little piece for that.
In my brain, it was Paul's idea. He came with a piece of paper. It was just a great way we used to work.
I'm not sure. It could have been mine. I'm not sure whether I want to take the blame for it, you know. We were all in on it. But a lot of that stuff at that time could have been my ideas, because I was coming up with a lot of sort of concepts, like, you know, Sgt. Pepper, and we could pretend to not be... And I'm not saying it was my album, obviously we all worked on all the stuff, but I was coming up with a lot of ideas.
And I remember Paul saying, you know, because to get the actors, we looked through that actor's book, the Spotlight or whatever, oh, we need someone like that and someone like that. And we needed the large lady as my auntie, because I was going to play this person with his auntie.
Take 9. Okay. Oh, baby, you made me laugh.
We knew we weren't doing a regular film. We were doing a crazy, roly-poly 60s film. I am the Eggman. You were the, you know, and I just wandered off to France and did that Fool on the Hill stuff. Just one morning with a couple of mates, you know, it wasn't quite Union.
Day after day, alone on a hill.
But quite a bit of it, really, in the big hangar down in Kent. We were driving around this airfield in the Mini Cooper. Your mother should know.
Your mother should know. Your mother should know.
People like Spielberg, I've read that people like him have sort of said, when I was in film school, that was a film we really took notice of. Like an art film, you know, rather than a proper film. But of course, we then released it, got it shown on the BBC on Boxing Day.
And of course, they showed it in black and white. And so it was hated. You know, they all had their chance then to say they've gone too far. Who do they think they are? What's really slated? But of course, when people started seeing it in colour, they realised that it was a lot of fun. You know, especially that aerial ballet shot. You know, we went all over Iceland, sent a guy out filming.
In reality, we hadn't done it as professionally, you know, as it could have been done. Right, but it was our first go at that sort of stuff, you know, and it was in a very traumatic period of everybody's career, if you like, you know, and we did the best we could, and I think under all the circumstances, it really turned out very well, you know.
I think we thought it was okay. I think looking back on it, I think we were quite pleased with it. At the time, it was all right. You know, it wasn't the greatest thing we'd ever done. I defend it on the lines that nowhere else do you see a performance of I'm the Walrus. That's the only performance ever. So things like that, I think, are enough to make it.
We brought the Beatles to America in 1963. Now, they can't be with us in person on our show December 10th, when CBS and Mayor Lindsay will be naming this theater after our show. But they sent this cablegram from London, and I'd like to read it to you. Dear Ed, winter has come once again to our Great Britain. We sit by our fires warming our feet. Stop, we send all love to you and everyone looking in. We are happy to be on your show. You too. You too. Stop, have a beautiful Christmas and a sincere New Year. Love, the Beatles. Now is signed by John Lennon, Paul McCartney, Ringo Starr, and George Harrison. But tonight, although they can't be here, here are the Beatles on film.
You say yes, I say no.
That was very, very thoughtful of you guys to prepare that for us. Incidentally, Hello Goodbye is their latest hit record.
Meanwhile, back in London, when the Beatles open a shop in Baker Street, everything slows down. Being stone's throw from Orchard Street, it's The Apple, the Beatles' new boutique. To mark the opening, the proud owners gave an apple juice party.
Off from the loony clothes and the kind of hippie flower power stuff, there was supposed to be, you know, all kinds of like different music, which now they'd call world music. You know, we were selling, that's what we were supposed to do, and sell all these books about various things that we were into, various art or spiritual things, and incense and, you know, whatever, all that kind of stuff. It kind of looked quite good.
The building was very nice. The counts and the painting was gorgeous. The Fool did that. There was a group of artists, basically from Holland, put this beautiful big mural on the wall. And the council got all the knickers in a twist and said, no, you've got to paint it white again. We said, are you kidding? It's beautiful. Everyone loves it. Some residents probably objected. So then we were going to project it, paint it white and project it from the opposite. You know, it was all full of that. It were good ideas, you know. Some of them you just didn't do, you never got round to them, but it was a great ideas time.
Far from the noise and pace of city life, in the cool, clear air of Rishikesh, North India, Pathé News reports from the meditation retreat of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, the man who, through transcendental meditation, is currently bringing peace of mind to the Beatles.
Rishikesh is an incredible place. It's like 99% of the population of Rishikesh are all renunciates. And it's right in the foothills of the Himalayas. It's where the Ganges flows out of the Himalayas into the plains of Kurukshetra, it's called, the plains between Delhi and the Himalayas.
I mean, we were really away from everything. It was like a sort of recluse holiday camp, you know. Right at the foot of the Himalayas. It was like being up a mountain, but they call it the foothills, hanging over the Ganges.
Exciting, you know, we're in this really spiritual place, and we were meditating a lot. We were having seminars by Maharishi. It was pretty far out.
It was very much like a kind of summer camp. You would get up in the morning, you would go down to a little communal breakfast. Food was veggie, which is kind of good for me now, but thinking back on it, I was still meat eating then, so it was all right though. It was sort of curries and stuff, you know.
The food was impossible for me because, you know, I'm allergic to so many different things. I took 2 suitcases with me, one of clothes and one of Heinz beans. There's a plug for you.
When we sat in the mountains eating lousy vegetarian food and writing all those songs, you know, wrote tons of songs in India.
Dear Prudence certainly got written there. Mia Farrow's sister was, well, she sort of hibernated, meditated and hibernated. We saw her, I think, twice in the 2 weeks I was there. Everyone would be banging on the door, you're still alive.
It's a couple of little things. Donovan was there, that reminds me, Donovan, because I remember I had a song called I Will.
Will I wait a lonely lifetime?
things that was actually stuff that Maharishi had said, like that song, Come On, Come On, you know, Come On, It's Such a Joy, whatever that song. Everybody got something to hide except for me and my monkey. Well, apart from the bit about the monkey, that was just what Maharishi used to always say, you know.
Come on, come on! Come on, come on!
A helicopter came. It landed down by the Ganges. This was on the banks of the Ganges in Rishikesh. And it was like, one of you can go up for a quick ride with Maharishi. Who's going to be? Me, sir. And because it was John. John always would... he was good at that, you know. So it got to be him anyway. And I was saying, why were you so keen, like, to get up with Maharishi? He said, tell you the truth. He said, I thought he might slip me the answer. It's very John. I gave myself a set period, and then if it was going to be something we really had to go back for, I was thinking of going back, you know. But at the end of my month, I was quite happy, and I thought, this'll do me. This is fine. If I want to get into it heavy, I can do it anywhere. That's one of the nice things about it. It's like you don't have to go to church to do it. Do it in your own room.
I didn't come back with the others anyway. I don't recall. I think Ringo probably came back quickly. He just went for a couple of weeks, just to put his toe in the water and see what it was like, maybe. And Paul just came and went.
We were there 4 months, or George and I were.
No,
we lost 13 pounds and we looked a day older.
Did you think this man's on the level?
I don't know what level he's on, but
he's on the
we
level.
had a nice holiday in India and came back rested to play businessman.
Whose idea was Apple? I don't know. It was sort of around, I think, before Brian died. I think actually the idea for Apple was the accountant's idea. You must diversify. One of those.
The big theory was that we'd put all our affairs into sort of one bundle. We'd have it as our own company. Apple would be a record label, all the things we'd ever wanted to do.
They all rang from England one morning my time, and said, we're starting this company, Apple. So we went to live in Surrey, and I worked for Apple, became Apple press officer again.
You know, the sole purpose of Apple was not to... People didn't have to beg anymore. Artists, they had a valid idea, we would front them. And, you know, we had a publishing company, a record company, and we would... we could use that in these companies. But, you know, we should have had a big sign, you don't have to beg.
But the idea was we'd go to America and we'd say, Apple is starting, you know, send us your huddled talent, you know, and we were interested in there. So we wanted a nice big launch. I had sort of a strange feeling. I was very nervous. I had like a sort of real sort of personal paranoia on me. I don't know if it was what I was smoking at the time, but it was very strange, that, for me. And I remember sitting up there and being interviewed, and John was doing great, and he had a bus driver or prefect badge he was wearing. They said, "What's that mean?"
Mr. Lennon, can you tell us what it is you're wearing, that button and those...
Well, it's just a white button, and that's bus prefect.
And that's what?
Bus prefect.
Bus prefect.
In charge of the bus.
And then they went on the Johnny Carson show, but Johnny Carson wasn't there. It was Joe DiMaggio, I think, was the guy, because Johnny was on holiday. And, you know, it was John, you know, I think one of the things John said on that show was like, you know, we'll just spin it like a top and see where it goes.
What do you see in the years ahead for yourselves?
Larry, you know, an expanding vista.
Apple, you know, we try and set it up and then see where it goes. It's like a top, and we set it going and hope for the best.
That was pretty much what happened, actually.
We had some kind of ideas on wouldn't it be nice if, you know, because we got screwed in business all the time. And, you know, how you have to go down on your knees. That was the famous one that John said, you know, we don't want people to have to go down on their knees.
It's a business concerning records, films and electronics. And as a sideline, whatever it's called, manufacturing or whatever. But we want to set up a system whereby people who just want to make a film about anything don't have to go on their knees in somebody's office, probably yours.
Well, what we did, you see, we did this mad thing of like, and maybe put an ad in the paper or something saying, send us your tapes and they will not be shown straight into the waste paper basket. You know, we will answer. And we just got inundated with tapes and poetry and scripts and phew. And in actual fact, I don't really think we got any bands or any artists by that method.
We never really got much from the send-in tapes, but because people knew we were interested, for instance, Peter Asher brought along James Taylor.
Yes, well, when I actually started at Apple in April '68, James Taylor was already there. He was in the office with Paul and Peter Asher.
Mary Hopkin was the main thing, you know. I didn't really bring her, but she was on a talent show.
Mary Hopkins came from the Huey Green, you know, whatever his show was called.
Opportunity Knocks.
I think Mal Evans found Badfinger, right, who were called the Ivies at the time.
Badfinger, I thought, came through Paul.
And I produced Doris Troy, and I produced a record by Jackie Lomax.
Anytime she's around me now, she's around me now. Doesn't matter what you do, girl. Ooh, girl.
The song of lonely love invites me on.
I think I lived in London, I was there more, so I probably did a little bit more production, for instance, than Ringo did. I'm not sure what Ringo did, actually.
I wasn't as involved as the others. As I say, you know, it was fun. We'd go in and, you know, a lot of what it did related to the four of us.
As I say, John wanted to do stuff like Zapple. He wanted a sort of funky label that he could do crazy stuff on. So that became his area, which was quite nice.
It might have been exciting for everybody else and for people that came in from the outside. For me, it was a lot of hard work setting it up and a lot of chaos.
I was still in India when it started. I think it was basically John and Paul's madness, ego, running away with themselves or with each other.
It's just trying to mix business with enjoyment.
Pleasure.
Because we're in business, you know, we find ourselves in business.
Are you the
We're trying to
directors?
make it-
Are you the directors
Yeah.
of this?
Yeah. But
Yeah.
like all the profits won't go into our pockets. They'll go to help people, but not like a charity.
We were just guys goofing off, having a lot of fun, trying to get things under our control. That was basically what we're trying to do, which a lot of people do now. They have their own companies, they take lawyers to meetings and get good deals and things, you know. It was the start of all of that, but it was a pretty haphazard start.
You know, I mean, it had a lot of ideas of we could do this and we could do that, but when it came down to it, really, the only thing we could do was write songs and make records and be Beatles successfully.
The first thing when we heard people were going to do a cartoon, have a man who sailed to sea and went to the land of submarines. Sounds like a pretty good story. Go down under the water, see this thing, meet all the people who live there. But we were into kind of psychedelic stuff with Pepper and those kind of things, so they wanted more of that kind of stuff. So it was up to them anyway. So we went along with that, and they had all the Sea of Holes and all that stuff, which I think, seeing it now, is pretty good. You know, it's quite interesting, really.
Yeah, I like the film. I think it's a classic film. I'm not sure why we never did our own voices, but probably the actors probably did it better anyway. You know, because you need it to be more cartoon-like. I mean, our voices were pretty cartoon-like anyway, but, you know, the exaggeration that you've got with the other actors' voices, I think it suits it.
But that's where all of that stuff came from, you know, that sort of terrible fake Liverpool accent, hello.
The thing with that film that still blows me away is that, like, the first year it was out, I had all these kids coming up to me saying, "Why did you press the button?" Because, you know, I press that button and get shot out, and kids from all over the bloody world were shouting at me, "Why did you press the button?"
Now, whatever you do, don't touch that button.
Which button?
That one.
This one.
But that film does go for every generation, every baby. You know, 3-, 4-year-old goes through Yellow Submarine.
I was having an art show in London at a gallery called Indica Gallery, And I heard this was going to be a happening, so I went down the night before the opening. Also, the first thing that was in the gallery, as you went in, there was a white step ladder and a painting on the ceiling and a spyglass hanging down. I walked up this ladder and I picked up a spyglass, big ballot in there, and it continued with the writing, it just said yes. If it had said no, or, you know, something nasty, like, you know, rip off or whatever, I would have left the gallery that, because it was positive, it said yes. I thought, okay, it's the first show I've been to that said something, you know, warm to me. So then I decided to see the rest of the show, and that's when we met. The album cover was less general than that, meaning we didn't have, that was one of the first things we did. We thought, you know, we felt like two virgins, that's what the album was called, because we were in love, just met, and we were trying to make something.
So he showed me this cover, and I pointed to the Times. Oh, you've even got the Times in it, like his dick wasn't out, you know. And I said, oh, come on, John, you know, you're doing all this stuff, you know. It may be cool for you, but, you know, we have to answer, you know. It doesn't matter, whichever one of us does something, we all have to answer for it. And he says, well, Ring, you only have to answer the phone. I said, okay, fine.
They were, from that point on, never to be seen without each other, you know, for the next few years at least.
Trouble was for us, it encroached on our framework that we had going. Basically, it's only ever been the four of us in the studio, maybe with Neil and Mal as the two roadies, or George Martin up in the control room often. He only ever came down occasionally, or an engineer came down to fix a mic. But that was it, and in our whole recording career, that had been the setup.
And again, you know, I used to just ask John, what's this about? And I said, you know, what is happening here, Yokers, at all the sessions? And he told me straight to me. I said, well, you know, when you go home to Maureen and you tell her how your day was, you know, takes you like 2 lines, oh, we had a good day in the studio. And he says, well, we know exactly what's going on. You know, and that's how they started to live, every moment together.
Everybody seemed to be paranoid, except for us two who were in the glow of love. You know, everything's clear and open when you're in love, and everybody sort of was tense around us, and, you know, what is she doing here at the session, or why is she with him, and all this sort of madness is going on around us, because we just happen to want to be together all the time. You know?
See the lover that's sleeping while my guitar